Okay, I'm going to show you how to do a basic stick figure animation, fight, dance scene, any kind of action kind of scene you can figure doing with a stick figure through Adobe Flash CS4. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a background in Illustrator, and at this point you all should be pretty fairly comfortable with Illustrator. The cool thing is that these programs work pretty well together, so I can take Illustrator, draw my background. Again, I'm keeping this real simple in terms of like the image, but feel free to do something much more complex. And something that is very key is you got to have your stroke and the entire project set to none. Otherwise, it's going to behave kind of funny when you bring it into Flash. So if for some reason you did have a black stroke on this, so you had strokes all over the place, you can do Command A to select all, set your stroke to none. Okay, and then click off. Okay, so basically, take some time, create a background in Illustrator for your animation, and then you can pause this video, come back, and we'll pick it up from there. Okay, so I imagine you've paused it, you've made your wonderful background in Illustrator, and we can go into Flash, do Command A, Command C to copy. Command A does select all. Command C does copy. And then we go over to Flash. We want to do open up Flash, this is FL there, right? And do File New, and choose Action Script 3. That's the newest version that we're working with on these computers. Newest version we have. Click OK, and here you've got your stage here. Okay. Now if we do Command V or Edit Paste, paste in center, that's going to paste in our background that we created in Illustrator. Okay. Or we can also even go to File, we can go into our Finder, go to that Illustrator file, and drag it right onto Flash. It's actually probably the best option. Drag it right on there. You're going to get all these options that come up. And what you want to do is select this. It might say Flash Layers. Bring that down to Single Flash Layer. Click OK. Okay, now this is in place. And if I were to move this out of the way, you can see our stage is just this little area here. So that's sort of like what our video camera sees, our virtual camera. So we want to fit everything onto that. So I might need to transform, okay? Command T brings up this transform window, or you can see it down here in your Windows menu. Pull up transform, and you can shrink these objects down. If you click the lock, it'll keep them constrained so that they are linked together. And you want to get it so that this is all going to fit onto that little stage area. Okay. Now you can preview how this is going to look by doing Command Return on the Mac, or going to what is it? Test Movie. Command Return. Okay. And now you can see I got a big gap here, so I want to either bring that green over or make it larger. So I can click on the green specifically and drag it bigger. I can undo the lock, make it so it just goes left and right. I can also, I did that just by itself. Again, if I wanted to change the size of everything, I just click and drag over it with one of my selection tools here. Or I do Command A, and I can change the size of all that stuff. Okay, so I've got my background in place. Now I've got my layer over here, and it's labeled background. You want to just make sure that it's called background. Okay, shouldn't have to do that, but you want to really keep track of all your layers. Now I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this Figure 1. Okay, and I'm going to start drawing my stick figure. I'm going to show you how to do basic drawing here. Again, it's very similar to Illustrator. So in the meantime, I'm going to click the eyeball here for my background, turn my background off, and I'm going to start drawing my stick figure. Now you've got your pen tool here, and this behaves almost identically to how it does in Illustrator. If you want to try to draw something with that, that's fine. What I really recommend for this is working with the line tool, okay? And the shortcut for that is just the N key on the keyboard. So I can go in, first off I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I can take my magnifying glass, I'm going to zoom into a pretty big area. I don't want to make my figure too small. Take my line tool, and I'm going to create some simple pieces for it. This is going to be the body. Okay, we're working with just a stick figure. If you hold shift, that'll make it so you can go out at 45 or 90-degree angles. If I let go of shift, you can see I can curve this all around evenly. I'm not too concerned about having it perfectly even across. Undo. I want to have the arms be a little bit longer so they can be expressive. So I got my arms in there. Then I'm going to just click right here and drag out some legs, right? Okay, that one's a little too long. We can fix that later with the direct select tool. Now I'm going to click on the oval tool. A lot of you will see a rectangle here. Click and hold down on that. Go to the oval tool or push O on the keyboard. We've got our oval up. And now I'm going to drag out a circle. Okay, now you see the circle is blue. That's not what I wanted. I actually want the circle to be white. If the circle is clear or no fill, we're going to see the sky in his head. So we don't want that. So I'm going to click this. And one thing you're going to notice immediately that's different between this and Illustrator is that the fill and the stroke are actually like separate objects. So if I just click here and drag this out, it actually pulls out the fill. Same thing with the the outline. So what you need to do is double click on it, and that actually selects both. Okay, I'm going to double click on it, put it into place, click on my fill here, and I want my fill to be white. Okay, and my stroke, I got my stroke color here. I actually want to go through and select all of this here, click and drag over all of that, set my stroke here just to black. Okay, it was it gray. Okay, so now I've got my stick figure in my background, right? Let's go ahead and give him or her a face. Again, I'm just doing the line tool. I'm doing this very, very basic, okay? This is going to be, again, just to learn the really basics of Flash, okay? Now, at this point, I've got my figure in there, and what I need to do is I got to set this up for animation, okay? I got to go down here in my timeline, and you can see it's set to 24 frames per second. Click and drag that down, or double click in it, and set that to 15 frames per second. It's going to be very important. That's the number of images that it'll show you in a single second of animation. And our entire project should be 150 frames when we're done with it. And at 15 frames per second, that means it's going to be a 10-second animation. So it's a very short animation, but it will still take you quite a bit of time. Okay, so now we've got the little figure in here, and what we want to do is we want to start animating him. Okay, I'm going to go in here with my sub selection tool. This is like the direct selection tool in Illustrator. And from here, we can just pick pieces of him. Got to make sure I'm on the right layer. It's on the background layer. And you can see I've got the anchor points just like in Illustrator. I can click and drag those. And I want him to start off in a more natural position. So I'm going to bring his arms down. Okay, so he's starting off like this. And I'm going to have him walk a little bit. So the first thing I need to do to make him walk is I'm going to have him start off here. I'm going to create another frame here. And the way to do that is to push F6 on the keyboard and push it once. And sometimes you'll have to push it twice. Sometimes it'll just advance you to the next frame and then nothing will happen. So depending on how your computer is set up, it's a little quirk. You'll have to push that twice perhaps. Okay? Now I can take him and I can move him just a little bit. Have his legs start switching positions, have his arms start swinging positions, because arms kind of sway when we walk, right? And I want to take also his whole body with my selection tool. I'm going to click over his whole body, and I want to move his whole body to the right a little bit. Okay. You can also move him with your arrow keys. I can click the right arrow, scoot him over a little bit. And now if I go back to my frame 1 here, you can see there's a little bit of difference. He's moved a little bit, correct? So now what I want to do is push F6 again. From on here, push F6. And I want to go back to my sub-selection tool. And I want to move him yet again. Click in here, grab these anchor points. And you don't want to have big jumps. The bigger the jumps you have, the choppier the animation will be. Okay? And maybe I'm going to have him, maybe his eye is going to move a little bit. Okay. At this point, there's another important thing. If you're finding that these don't move into place how you want them to, go up to View, Snapping, and turn off Snap Align, Snap to Guides, and Snap Objects. Those 3 are defaulted to be on. You can turn all of those off, and that will make it so that you're, when you move these lines around, it's not going to be as frustrating. And then I want to move the entire figure forward in space. So I'm going to go back to my regular selection tool here, and I've got him entirely selected. Again, my background is locked. If my background wasn't locked, you can see I'd be accidentally grabbing and moving on that. So make sure that is locked. Click and drag over him, and I'm going to nudge him over with the arrow keys. couple frames. Okay. Now, if I go back through my timeline, you can also use the less than or greater than, like the comma and the period on the keyboard to shift back and forth. You can see he's moving a little bit, right? So now I want to continue this walking motion, but I want to make this a little easier for you to see. So if I go down here, there's this thing called onion skin outlines and onion skin. We just want to turn onion skin on. And what it actually does, you can see now, when I turn that on and off, look at this area here. Oops, wrong button, there we go. Okay, you can see not only does it show where he was in history, but it also shows how we can select that history up here. So I can set that just to 1 frame out, 2 frames out. Once we get further out, you can see you can set it to see how far into the future you're looking. And they're sort of grayed out. If I zoom in here, you can notice that the line we're on here is the current frame, and then this shows you a previous frame and yet again a previous frame. And the longer you have it set out, the more they sort of like dull out, like an onion skin. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom out a little bit, Command minus, just like many other programs. M for magnifying glass, I'm going to zoom in right over them. And I've got my subselection tool, the letter A, and I want to create another frame. So F6, F6, and you got to make sure you're up here. You know, you don't want to, if you're back here and you create another frame, it just nudges a frame in there, and that's going to cause you headaches. So make sure you're at the last frame. Once you're done, preview everything, set everything back on your playhead. Okay, move legs, move legs, move arms, and maybe I'm going to move his eyes just a little bit. Move his mouth a hair too. Why not? Okay. And then I gotta go back to this tool, or V, select all, nudge, 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 nudge. Click back to my direct selection tool, F6 to make a new keyframe. Okay. And then you want to continue these out and just watch your onion skins. Okay. Where was this in previous time? That was there. So now the legs are switching position, right? And just to double check on it. Right? Not too bad. Let's go to V, Command A, nudge, 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 nudge. Okay. F6, and you get the idea, okay? Now, from this point, you can actually do a whole lot of different things, okay? The character can walk, the character can, you can go in with your pencil tool and you can start drawing, you know, flames coming out of his hands. If he's shooting fireballs, you can do all kind of really fun, creative stuff with this. What I'd like you to do is show a simple action in the time of, you know, 10 seconds, okay, 150 frames. Make sure your frame rate is set there properly. If you want to have it, you know, have him dancing, throwing a football, doing something, but make sure that that animation is very smooth, okay? You got to really change it frame to frame slowly. If for some reason you start making these really, really big adjustments on it and then you go to play it back, it's going to be so fast, it's not going to be watchable. Here, I've got 6 frames done, and that adds up to, at 15 frames a second, just over a third of a second. It's very fast. I'll show you, again, how we previewed our video test movie. Command return, and you can see it's looping what we've got there. That's such a short little time of space, right? It's very, very quickly. Here's another one I was testing on a little bit ago. Let me just bring that down here. Just going to delete that real quick. Clear frames. Okay, so now when I show you this, this is 14 frames, and he's running up like he's about to do a backflip or something. And you can see it's just a very, 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 very short animation. That's just under a second. Okay, so have fun with this. Be creative with it. Make sure that you have the layers that you're not using locked. Okay, again, like if this background layer is unlocked, it's going to cause you no end of headache. Get a background that you've brought in from Illustrator, and again, try to do something more complicated than this. And you can actually do some pretty creative, tricky stuff. Watch the example video that is also posted right before here from it's just a video I found off of YouTube of someone doing a stick animation with Flash. Actually, there's a ton of them out there. It's kind of a popular thing to do. And when we're done with this, we're going to export it, bring it into Final Cut, and we can add music or sound or anything like that. Okay? Thanks for watching.